Have you ever found yourself in a heated argument where facts seem to twist and turn like a slippery eel? Well, that could be logical fallacies at play. These are errors in reasoning that undermine the logic of an argument. Understanding these can help you argue better and think clearer. By learning to recognize these fallacies, we can protect ourselves from being misled. Ready to boost your brain power? Let's get started. Imagine you're in a debate about climate change.
What do you know? You're just a high school teacher.
This is a classic ad hominem fallacy. It targets the person, not the argument. It's easier, but derails the discussion. Ad hominem mixes truth with irrelevance. It's intellectually lazy and derails conversations. Steer back, let's focus on the argument. This fallacy pops up everywhere. Recognizing it is the first step to diffusing it. The strawman fallacy is like building a paper tiger just to set it aflame.
Here's how it works. Person A presents an argument.
Person B then distorts it into something that's easier to attack and dismantle.
For example, imagine you say, "We should have more vegetarian options in our school cafeteria."
A straw man response might be, "Why should everyone be forced to give up meat entirely?"
This misrepresentation can lead to a lot of head scratching and frustration because it shifts the original argument to something entirely different. The key here is to recognize when your words are being twisted and politely correct the course. Actually, I didn't say ban meat, I suggested more options. It's a common tactic in heated discussions, especially on hot-button topics where emotions run high. By learning to spot and dismantle straw men, you can keep discussions honest and productive. Handling a straw man effectively requires patience and clarity. Restate your original point clearly and ask your counterpart to respond to that, not to a distorted version. This keeps the dialogue constructive and focused on real issues, not imaginary ones. We often hear arguments like, 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this toothpaste. This might sound convincing, but it's an appeal to authority fallacy if the expertise of these authorities on the specific subject isn't established.
Just because an authority says something doesn't make it universally true.
Appeal to authority can be a useful shortcut to evaluating information. Experts do often know best. However, it becomes a fallacy when the authority is not really an expert, or their expertise is irrelevant to the argument. For example, a famous actor endorsing a new drug doesn't necessarily know more about the drug than someone else. In our daily lives, we encounter this fallacy in advertisements, endorsements, and even news articles. It's important to ask, is this person qualified to give an opinion on this matter? What might their biases be? To counter this fallacy, consider the source and seek additional information. It's about being a savvy consumer of information, questioning rather than accepting claims at face value. This approach not only refines your critical thinking but also guards against misinformation. Slippery slope from A to Z without stopping. The slippery slope fallacy assumes that a small first step will inevitably lead to a chain of related events culminating in some significant, often negative effect.
For example, someone might argue, if we allow students to redo their assignments to improve grades, next they'll want to retake entire courses.
This fallacy thrives on fear and exaggeration. It bypasses rational discussion by forecasting extreme outcomes without sufficient evidence. Just because one event follows another doesn't mean that the first event causes the other to occur.
It's important to challenge the inevitability of these outcomes. Ask for evidence and question whether the proposed chain of events is the only possible outcome, or if it's a constructed scenario meant to scare or manipulate.
Addressing a slippery slope argument involves pointing out this lack of inevitability and discussing alternative, less drastic outcomes. This not only dismantles the fallacy, but also opens up a more grounded and realistic discussion about potential consequences and measures. False dichotomy. Only 2 options? Think again. Ever been told, you're either with us or against us? This is a false dichotomy, a fallacy that presents 2 opposing options as the only possibilities, when in fact, there are more.
This fallacy simplifies complex issues into an either-or scenario, which is rarely reflective of reality. False dichotomies are particularly persuasive because they demand a choice, pushing you into a corner.
They polarize discussions and can lead to unnecessary conflict. In reality, most situations have multiple alternatives and nuances that this fallacy conveniently ignores.
The next time you encounter a false dichotomy, question the completeness of the options presented. Are there really only 2 possibilities? What alternatives are being overlooked?
By broadening the discussion, you can explore more balanced and informed choices. To effectively counter this fallacy, introduce additional options and shades of gray. This not only enriches the conversation but also encourages more thoughtful and less confrontational dialogues. Circular reasoning going round in circles. Circular reasoning is when the conclusion of an argument is also one of its premises.
This might sound reasonable at first, but it's like saying I'm right because I'm right. A classic example is, the Bible is true because it says so in the Bible.
This fallacy can be tricky to spot because it often appears logical. However, it's just repeating the same point in different words without providing any actual evidence. It's a conversation stopper, ending inquiry rather than encouraging it.
When you detect circular reasoning, the best approach is to ask for independent evidence that supports the conclusion. This encourages a more analytical approach to the discussion and helps ensure that the arguments made are robust and based on more than just assertions.
Circular reasoning can often be dismantled by simply pointing out that the argument goes nowhere. It encourages deeper thinking and the search for genuine, substantial evidence, enhancing the quality of the discourse. Hasty generalization occurs when a conclusion is drawn from a sample that is too small or biased. For instance, if someone eats at a new restaurant, finds the food unpalatable, and declares, "The cuisine of this entire country is terrible," they're making a hasty generalization.
This type of reasoning can lead to stereotypes and misconceptions, as it bases broad conclusions on limited or exceptional cases. It's an easy trap to fall into, especially in a world where quick judgments are often encouraged.
To counter this fallacy, it's important to consider whether the sample is representative and sufficient. Asking for more evidence or considering other experiences can provide a more balanced view and prevent unfair generalizations. Encouraging broader investigation and considering multiple viewpoints can help mitigate the effects of hasty generalizations, leading to more accurate and fair conclusions. This fallacy's name is a mouthful, but its concept is simple. After this, therefore because of this. It occurs when it's assumed that just because one event follows another, the first event caused the second.
For example, I wore my lucky shirt and won the lottery, so the shirt brought me luck.
While it's tempting to correlate events that follow each other, this doesn't necessarily prove causation. Correlation does not imply causation, and believing so can lead to superstitious thinking and erroneous conclusions.
To tackle this fallacy, look for real evidence of causation. Are there other factors that could have contributed to the outcome? Could it just be a coincidence?
By asking these questions, you can separate mere sequence from true cause and effect. Understanding the difference between correlation and causation enriches your analytical skills and helps you make more reasoned judgments about the events in your life and the world around you. The bandwagon fallacy is all about going with the flow. It argues that something is true or right because everyone is doing it. For example, all my friends are buying this stock, so it must be a good investment.
Just because a belief or action is popular doesn't necessarily make it correct or wise. This fallacy preys on our social nature and the desire to fit in.
However, popularity is not a reliable indicator of truth. History is riddled with examples where the popular opinion was later proven wrong.
To avoid falling for this, it's crucial to evaluate claims based on evidence rather than popularity. It's okay to go against the tide if that's where the facts lead. Independent thinking is key to making sound decisions that aren't just echoes of the crowd.
Challenging the bandwagon fallacy involves affirming your values and beliefs based on evidence and reasoning, not just because it's the trend or norm. This promotes more authentic and thoughtful decision-making. Congratulations on taking a whirlwind tour through the deceptive world of logical fallacies. By now, you're better equipped to spot these sneaky errors in reasoning and protect yourself from being misled. More importantly, understanding and identifying these fallacies not only sharpens your debating skills but also enhances your overall thinking process. Improved communication and clearer thinking are just the start. As we cultivate these skills, our discussions become more productive and our decisions more sound. This isn't just about academic or intellectual growth, it's about living a more informed, rational, and fulfilling life. Remember, the journey doesn't end here. The world will constantly challenge your critical thinking abilities. Keep practicing, stay curious, and always question the logic behind the arguments presented to you. Here's to clearer thinking and wiser living. Keep learning, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep enjoying the process of thinking critically. It's a skill that will serve you well in every aspect of life.